Okay, so um, let me get out of here. It's a beautiful picture of me, of course. So this is an optional video. I actually forgot to bring in my USB drive today, so I've just had to borrow a USB drive from a colleague, Matt Judson. Um, and Matt's got a USB drive that has got a lot of different partitions on it that he's kindly allowed me to take and to essentially destroy because I'm going to change the partition table and reformat it. But I thought it might be interesting to just give an explanation of this. Now, with regard to hard drives and partitioning and formatting, I think a good analogy for that is when you buy a hard drive, it would be like you buying a massive sheet of paper. So if you buy, this case is a 32 gigabyte a USB drive. So you bought effectively like 32 gigabytes of paper. The idea being that you can write on the paper or you can write on this hard drive. And it is up to you how you choose to break down that paper in order to use it. So the way I would think about the partition essentially is partition. You're going to chop it up, and the idea would say I'm going to allocate this much of the paper for this purpose, or I'm going to create these different lumps of paper. The idea being that you can then allocate them for different purposes. So in our case, we're only going to have one partition, but it might be of interest to look at an example of a more complicated partitioning scheme as we actually repartition. Effectively, we take all the chopped up pieces of paper and join them back together again, and also reformat. So remember that what we have here is we have a Windows system, and inside that Windows system, we're running Ubuntu. So I'm going to plug in the drive. Which was actually a little bit more difficult than I thought. It's under the desk. And if we look here in File Explorer, you'll actually see that nothing has shown up because I don't think there's anything readable on this disk for this file system. Now, if we go into the Ubuntu virtual machine and we look at devices and USB, that's interesting because it seems like that drive hasn't been detected at all in our system. Like our system can't read this drive. That's quite weird. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, so here we are. Turns out this USB that I've managed to find is a slightly dodgy one, and I've got it connected up now. So we can see we've got our physical internal hard drive local disk C, and then we got this data D, which is that disk. The only thing is it's not really reading anything of it, but it does detect it as being there. Now, what we want to do is we want to connect this USB drive through to our virtual machine. So we want to make it look as though it was physically plugged into our virtual machine and not into the Windows host machine. So the virtual machine is a guest, the Windows machine is a host. So if we go over to the virtual machine and we go to devices and USB, we can see we've got this device Patriot memory, and we can connect this up by clicking on it. I've got to log back into my system here. And it's brought up the drive within the Ubuntu Linux. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to repartition this drive. We want to make it a single partition. What I actually want to do is to reset it as to how the drive would appear if you just bought it and plugged it in for the first time. And how it would be is with a single Windows FAT32 partition. So click on this top button here and type disks. Okay, and this starts up a Ubuntu application which allows you to look at your disks and to potentially reformat them. So we click on that, and it's the 32 gigabyte thumb drive memory that I'm interested in. Okay, so you can see that Matt Judson has been using this for Macintosh, OS X applications, because he's got a mountain lion, a lion, and a Mavericks partition here. Not sure what it's all about, but certainly some of it's for the Mac. So one of the things I want to see is I've got an add additional partitions option. Format partition, create partition, restore partition image. One of the things it's not letting me do here is to actually remove partitions. So I'm going to pause the video where I figure out where I have to go to actually remove partitions. Okay. Okay, so things are actually a lot easier than I thought. This minus sign here allows you to delete the partition. So I'm going to delete all of the partitions on this drive. Delete. Delete that one. Delete this one. And delete my last partition to give myself an unpartitioned, completely blank disk. Now I'm going to create a partition using all of the disk. I'm not going to overwrite it, although actually in this case I think I will. It's going to take a little bit of time. We're going to make this lowest common denominator, FAT. We'll call it Porteus. And we're going to create this. This could take a little bit of time because we are overwriting, essentially erasing the device. So we'll pause this for a while. So here we have our USB drive in the form that it would be when you first buy it. So if we would look at edit partition, well, actually I say that. Yeah. Let me pause that for a second just to make sure that's what's happened. Okay, I actually had a little issue there. I had to, it wasn't showing up as a FAT partition. So what I did quickly was I clicked on this, format partition, don't overwrite existing data, and set the partition to FAT, and then proceeded to reformat it. So now we have it as it's supposed to be, a single partition on the drive, which is a file system with a FAT file system on it. So it's now to the point where it would be if you just literally bought it from the store or gotten it from Amazon. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through how you would proceed to install Porteus Linux on this partition. So that'll be in the next video.